What's the most likely source? It could be that these things originated before we evolved. There's a period 1 billion years ago or more that we just don't have any fossil evidence of. Possibly an advanced technology civilization evolved, and when they saw things getting dicey, maybe this civilization said, we're out of here. We're gonna go create a habitat down deep, or maybe on Mars or in the moon. Canadian divers claim to have seen these 2 underwater discs and actual occupants outside the craft, so aliens.
What do you think these are?
Yeah, right.
Are they man-made?
I don't know. No. Well, first off, no. I don't know. That's why we need to study it. And these organizations I'm with, supporting their research. But as this topic gets explored more and more, and I engage with people that are that have been read in or have somehow touched the programs. We have a very active discussion going on daily about this very question. What are they? And I mean, there's some possibilities. They could be from an extraterrestrial source. Again, we don't know the physics on how that could be. Some people have speculated an interdimensional origin, which I don't understand either. But again, since we really don't know all there is about physics, possibly there's something there. And then there's a really interesting theory and I'll encourage your listeners to check it out. There's an article in The Debrief from early this year, 2024, by a guy named Bernardo Kastrup, and it's a really well-written essay where he speculates that, well, all right, what's the most likely source? Well, if intergalactic travel is not possible, then it could be that these things originated before we evolved, before life as we know it evolved. So they think there's a period around 750 million years ago where, due to the recycling of the continents, if you will, that there's no fossil evidence for. And so there's a period 1 billion years ago or more that we just don't have any fossil evidence of. And he conjectures that possibly an advanced technology civilization evolved. And that's not a stretch when you think we're an advanced technology civilization, I think, kind of, and we've evolved. We're here now. So if you know we can do that, then go back even 1 billion years and perhaps that could have happened. And when they saw things getting dicey, because there's so many cataclysms that have happened. You look at the dinosaurs and the asteroid that wiped off a large portion of the Earth. There have been other extinction events, and then less cataclysmic, but even severe, like about 12,000 years ago. This climatic period called the Younger Dryas, where the Earth's temperature dropped a lot, and you can see evidence of that in geology and so that was an event where a large part of the Earth's life was exterminated. So what's happened? The Earth's pretty hostile. You look at the volcanoes in Iceland. You look at asteroid impacts of the past, and maybe this advanced technology civilization said, we're out of here. We're going to go create a habitat down deep, or maybe on Mars or in the moon, and just get somewhere more stable. And maybe they've just been able to live, and we've not found evidence of it yet, or that these things are evidence of that.
So there's it sounds like there's 3 discussions going on within the professionals, we'll call them.
Yeah.
And so one of them is ancient technology / civilization, next interdimensional, and the next extraterrestrial.
Yeah, that's how I see it, the possibilities. Maybe there are more. I haven't thought of them.
So I'd like to dissect kind of each one of those, with the ancient civilization stuff. I mean, what does that, at the end of this, I want to ask where you're leaning towards. But I mean, what is that, if there's a civilization in the earth, in the ocean, towards the Earth's, the center, I mean, what does that even look like?
Well,
what do you
think? No, we've mapped the surface of the seabed, again, very incompletely. So we don't even know. There are parts of is there underwater structures We don't really know. Or are they deep below the geology as we know it? Again, we don't know. So but it's not a stretch to think it's possible based on the length this planet's been in existence. What's unfortunate about this whole discussion we talked about a little earlier is it's so stigmatized that few people want to be open-minded and talk like we are right now, of entertaining the possibility of an advanced technology civilization from either of those three origins. It's just not taken seriously. And I think, and thank you for having me on, because it is about time we do it, because we do see evidence of them all the time in the ocean and, of course, in the atmosphere.
And you know of a Canadian USO encounter?
Oh, yeah, this is one of the earlier ones. It's in the 60s, I think early 60s, and there's a great book about it called Sweep Clear 5, and it refers to the name of this mine warfare exercise. The subtitle is NATO's Underwater UFO Encounter. And it's a very interesting book because it's written by a researcher who interviewed these Canadian divers. Now, what happened is, first off, is there was a major UFO event in Canada, a place called Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, in either late 60s, I think the late 60s. I don't remember the date. And that's all over the web. But before that, there was another encounter where UFOs were seen to go into the water, and it happened I think it coincided with a NATO exercise, and the ships all got vectored to go look for these things. And Canadian divers were interviewed and claimed to have seen these two underwater discs and actual occupants outside the craft trying to repair it. So aliens. And they even said they captured video, but they don't know where the tapes are. Anyways, there's this book, Sweep Clear 5, is all about it. And it's about the investigation into that. And that's the first well-documented USO case that I know about.
Wow. Was there any description on what the beings?
There was, and I think they were humanoid. I don't remember the details. They weren't human for sure, but they were human-like.
Did they have equipment on?
I don't know. It didn't seem like they did, but maybe it was so technical that it didn't appear to be like equipment. I don't know.
Man, so I mean, what do you think? If we're on we're going through the three discussions, and if it wasn't advanced civilization that's living under the surface of the earth, whether it's in the ocean or somewhere else, I mean, how long? I mean,
well, here
there's just so many questions.
I know. I don't know, but I do know this, and this is why I like the Galileo project, because Avi Loeb articulates this so well. He and modern society doesn't appreciate how new to the scene we are in terms of everything, our behavior, and how we treat each other, and technology, and so you have to think it's just so possible that either in this large universe or in a part of the universe we don't even know about, like I said, another dimension, that some advance or several. And actually, that's the thing, Sean, is that from what I gather of all these eyewitness accounts that are out there, and knowledge from credible sources that were that know people in these programs, the UAP programs, crash retrieval programs, that there are different types. And I mean, in fact, what's very interesting too, just today, again, I mentioned Chris Mellon. He was a former DASD, Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Intelligence. So he was up there, and he knows what he's talking about, and he's been in this field for some time. He on his Substack page, account, whatever you call it, today, April 23rd, he published an article, and he had a screenshot of a signal discussion with someone who had known people in that crash retrieval program. And he said that he was very credible, didn't want to let his name out, but the person acknowledged that that there was an active crash retrieval program, and that there was an Air Force gatekeeper at the SES level for it, and so there was this discussion that he published today, and he wrote a nice article about it. Basically, and what's so good about Chris, he doesn't say what he doesn't know. He says what he knows. He doesn't speculate, and he doesn't reveal sources that don't want to be revealed. And so he said, here's the discussion we had. This person was senior in the government, and I'm not going to reveal his name, but he said he was aware of these programs. Wasn't read into them, but was aware and knew people who were. And so he's just putting that out there. Again, doing it because there's such an active disinformation campaign that that office, Arrow, is a part of to discredit anybody who brings forth this information. And again, the highest level, the NSC, obviously, the ODNI, they don't want this information out. Now, it's worth talking about that for a little bit. Why am I coming out now if the government is doing the best thing and doesn't want the information out? And so I think they're wrong on this case. And so do my colleagues like Chris and Lou Elizondo, that at some level we should, yes, not let advanced technology come out to the public, because we don't want our adversaries getting the upper hand. Of course not.
You know what everybody dreads? The inbox. I've gone through thousands and thousands of emails, and I hear you loud and clear. So we're making it official. The Vigilance Elite store is fully stocked. We're dropping new gear more often. Some limited edition, some permanent staples. We've got hats, tees, and even Vigilance Elite tumblers. And yes, before you ask, I'm still booze-free. It's been 3.5 years. Relax. It's just water. If you were one of those emails, consider this your green light. Head over to SeanRyanShow.com and stock up.
But the knowledge that we're being visited and can't secure our own water space and airspace, and that this could be something more of a global security nature, and it demands thoughtful public policy, and the public should have a part of that. That fact that we're being visited, and it's something that every nation is dealing with. That's something I think does not benefit us by trying to cover up. And in my personal opinion, the Arrow report was so inartful and flawed and full of errors that it makes me wonder: are we that clumsy and inefficient and ineffective in other counterintelligence endeavors? I sure hope not. I hope we're not failing that badly when we're trying to perform the same kind of activity regarding Chinese and Russian intelligence services.
How many, I mean, are there a lot of countries that are digging into this? Or are we?
There are. And now, I don't know of all of them, but I've had, for example, I was just contacted by an Italian researcher who has, like me, decided to focus on the underwater UAP, and he's been doing it for 20 years perhaps, and was a colleague of this guy, Carl Feint, who wrote that original book, UFOs and the Water. And so there's that. This Soul Foundation group has just brought on a European on their board. His name is Jonathan Berta, and he's neat because he's a technology guy. He's an industry. He's got his own company, and here's how his company got started. I think they do aerial drones, and I think it was in France that they were seeing all these UAPs around their nuclear sites, and they contracted his company to fly drones to observe them. That's how he kind of launched his company, and he's doing quite well. But he's one of these open-minded people, and so he brings in an international perspective to the Soul Foundation. In addition to Peter Skafish, who's the other lead, and he's got a humanities background. I think it's a socio-cultural anthropology, and then you have Gary Nolan, who's got a material science and biomedical expertise, and he brings that hard science to the Soul Foundation.
Interesting. Let's get back to the underwater stuff. I want to know what else are you seeing? I mean, with with your current research, what are you currently working on under there?
Well, I'm not an active investigator. I don't have a ship. I don't have the money to fund an expedition. Now, there's a couple things that I have been involved with. For example, the Galileo project. And this isn't too out there, but it's part of the whole phenomena, if you will, and field that is worth pursuing. So Galileo is looking to discover remnants of ancient civilizations, extraterrestrial technology civilizations, or active ones that are in our world observing us. So he's setting up this
strictly outside of Earth.
Well, kind of. And so he's got telescopes that are looking at the near Earth atmosphere.
Okay.
And so wherever they come from. So it doesn't matter where their origin. He just wants to scientifically study them better. But here's something cool. So he studied the very first known interstellar object to impact the planet. So it was in a catalog of, I think, asteroids or objects like that I forgot who maintained it. But basically, he got some data, looked at it. It had been gathered, I think it was collected on what appeared to be a meteorite, impact the Earth over the ocean off Papua New Guinea, the Bismarck Sea. And so he had data on this. And when he looked hard at the data, he realized that this thing, its impact was not like others. We know from Space Force data that it's got an it's outside the solar system. It's an interstellar origin, just based on its trajectory. So if you're an astronomer and an astrophysicist, you can do the math and determine that based on how a meteorite comes in. So we know this thing is interstellar in origin, one, and then he looked at how it impacted, and you can again do the math through the energetics and everything, that it had a much harder material strength. So it disintegrated a lot later than others based on its speed and all these things. So it was made of something harder, not the normal iron type of composite or whatever that the normal meteorites are made of. So it impacted from outside the solar system, and it burned up a lot slower. It was made of something super hard. So what he did is he launched an expedition, got it funded, and he went and recovered fragments of that meteorite. They hit the ocean and then settled in the sea. And what happens when a meteorite does that, it burns up and it creates these sort of little metallic droplets that just sort of fall into the sky. Heavier ones fall first, and the other ones sort of just push along the trajectory and fall later. And so he went and mapped it all out. I gave him ocean data and atmospheric data so he could do a profile and figure out how far the stuff drifted in the air and then drifted in the water based on currents. And he found him. Interestingly, I was able to connect him with the group who'd done that before to go search for meteorite fragments in the ocean. We had done this NOAA had done this with NASA in a thing called the National Marine Sanctuary off the Olympic coast. And we basically built a magnetic sled with some magnets on it and towed it along the water to pick up all the metallic particles, and then had to take basically fine brush and get them all off, separate them from the mud, and then study them. So Avi did that with his team, and I didn't go out with him, but he was able to find material that was not of earthly origin. So his next expedition, which he hopes to lead in April 2025, he found the fine stuff. He thinks it could be technology, right? And so maybe some of the bigger things that didn't burn up are out there too. So he wouldn't know it because he had a sled that was designed only for fine particles. But his next expedition, he's going to take an ROV with a camera, and he's going to go along the seafloor and look for stuff. And he kind of jokes in a lot of his writings that maybe it'll actually have a keyboard on it, and maybe there's going to be a button to push. And he always asks people, if you found something from an extraterrestrial visitor and a gadget, like giving a caveman an iPhone, would you push a button on it? And some people say, no, I wouldn't push the button, no way. And he says, I'm going to push the button.
Wow. No matter where you're watching Sean Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And If you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.